Happy Friday. I had the incredible pleasure this week of being with an interfaith group that met in person for the first time in, of course, a couple of years. We have two gatherings a year, and so we had been meeting on Zoom. And this past Tuesday night, we were together in person, and it was so wonderful. It's hard to describe at least as far as I've been able to. You all can tell me in the comments if you have found some good words for it, how different it feels to be in person. Um, I think that science, maybe already, but if not already, eventually will be able to sort of quantify what is it that's different about being physically with someone, next to people, as opposed to Zoom. I know we all feel incredibly blessed by the ability to be online together, and I'm also sure that we all have meetings that we want to keep online. The convenience of not having to drive, not having to reserve space, and those kinds of things are a real benefit for many of parts of our lives. And there is something about bodies being in a shared space together. I talked about this a little bit in the first year of the pandemic, and we were reading Resmaa Menakem's book about healing trauma, and he writes a lot about the bodies being together. Settled bodies help settle other bodies, that doing group activities like singing together, maybe rocking together, dancing together, have very profound healing and comforting effects on our bodies. So all of these things are true. And in our Chalice community, in terms of the pandemic, we have people sort of at every stage of a words escape me. But some people who have been minimally impacted by the pandemic, so people who kept going to work, who of course, wore masks and did other things, but for the most part, life kept on. At the other end, folks who largely just were able to stay at home and stay inside. And again, I don't know what the right word is because we're not done with the pandemic. We know that there's a new variant in San Diego. Europe has seen surges. So, but we're at a different stage. I guess I've heard it called living with coronavirus. But there's more opportunities to go out and do things. Some of you have been out doing things all along. Some of you, aren't wearing masks when you're out and about and have great confidence in your vaccines and your boosters. And other folks at the other end, I guess spectrum is the word I was looking for, who feel very cautious because of being immunocompromised, of having young children who aren't vaccinated, those things that we still need to be careful and concerned about. So, but one of the things I want to lift up, you'll hear me say, and I've put in writing, that the safest thing to do is to stay home. And that's true in terms of safety from getting COVID. But we are more than 2 years now into a pandemic. And part of our assessment of our safety and our well-being also needs to be our mental health and well-being. And physically being with other people offers something important in our lives. And this doesn't have anything to do with being introverted or extroverted. I think, again, it's this thing about bodies. So I can tell you that, from being at this gathering Tuesday night, which isn't the first gathering I've been to, but it just really, one of the things I said afterwards and have been saying to people this week is being in a room physically with other people feels like there are wounds and sores inside of me that are being given a balm that is starting to be healing. And so I want to be clear, we never want to pressure each other. We don't want to have any peer pressure about going out or staying in or wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. We have guidelines for us as a community when we gather, but we're not here to pressure or push each other. but I want to lift up that they're part of the assessment of what is reasonably safe right now needs to be that there is something profoundly healing and nourishing about being physically with other people. And I feel like we're very fortunate at Chalice to have a courtyard and to live in San Diego, where we have not just pretty nice weather, but I would say especially nice weather in the spring. We know it's going to get hotter and hotter, and what feels good in July and August may be different from what feels good now. But that we have the ability to gather on our courtyard, and people can leave their masks on. So being outdoors with masks on is, I think, one of the safest things you can do around other people. And many of us feel comfortable taking our masks off on the courtyard with all that great air circulation. So it's worth finding an activity that feels reasonably safe to you in order to be with some other people. I've mentioned several messages ago that one of my close girlfriends and I, for a lot of Omicron, we met at a park. So we picked up lunch separately, and we brought folding chairs, and we sat outside with some distance between us, and got to visit in person, and it felt so much better than being on Zoom. So I'm not knocking Zoom, because we will continue to use Zoom for many of our gatherings, and it makes sense. It makes sense for a lot of the things we do in even in families that are just far apart, and for us at church, for people to find time to do things. And there's that's separate business from we'll have to find a name for it, but whether it's just being social, sort of being gathered together, it needs to have its own space in how you organize your life these days. So whatever it takes for you to, and I think an important part of it is to get out of the house. It turns out I think there's something important about getting out of the house sometimes too. Again, how that pendulum has swung. In the early days of the pandemic, I felt kind of stir crazy to be in the house so much. And now I've gotten used to it. Like, I reached the end of the day yesterday and thought, like, did I even go anywhere today? And I hadn't, and that's become a norm. So sort of what I'm used to, I'm sure for many of us, has changed pretty dramatically too. So getting out sometimes and being with other people, I want to encourage you to think of it as a high priority. We're going to be offering some more times for us to do that at Chalice in April. Again, as I talked about last week, you can sign up to come to worship, but you don't have to sign up to come to coffee hour. And you can just come to coffee hour after the worship. Doesn't matter if you didn't make it there, to enjoy that social time. So I'll be talking, you'll get more information about that next week. We're going to have some special, I'm calling them like deluxe coffee hour times in April. But it's not this Sunday, so don't worry about that. Anyway, I hope to see you and be with you soon. Blessings and love to each of you.